Why is it that some people can connect with others so easily while others struggle to understand the feelings of those around them? Have you ever had a really hard day, but a friend, family member, or coworker connected with you in a way that helped you know that you were not alone? In today's video, we're going to talk about the importance of empathy and look at how it affects our relationships. We'll also take a look at some of the barriers that can keep us from showing empathy to others. Hi, if you don't know me, I am Barika from Simply Unique Coaching, and I have been leading for over 15 years. I've led more than way more than 18 teams, way more than 15 years. I'm here to share tips and strategies to help leaders and aspiring leaders with what they need to do to be successful, because I want you to avoid all of the common flaws that can come into leadership. And so I like to share tips and strategies with people who want to be great leaders. So in today's video, we're going to talk about empathy. And also at the end of the video, I'm going to share some actionable tips on how we can build empathy in our daily lives, allowing us to build stronger, more meaningful connections with those who are around us. So first of all, let's talk about what actually is empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. You may be saying, okay, well, why is empathy important for leaders? It absolutely, positively cannot say it enough. It's super important for leaders because in order to be a good leader, you have to connect with your individuals on your team, and you need to connect with them in an individual manner. And that can be easier said than done. So some people may say, well, yeah, I have relationships. I know the people on my team. Do you really? Do you really? Do you really? And it's not saying we want to be nosy. Okay, I'm about to go on a tangent, so let me get back on this video. But it's not to say that we want to be nosy. It's like building relationships. Maybe I'll link a video about how to build relationships with your team members, but let's stick to empathy for this video. So why does empathy matter for leaders? It helps us to communicate better with the members of our team. I know I just had a team member recently that I went through kind of like they were hired through an agency. And so I typically like to hire directly, but in this instance, there was an agency that was involved. And so I just realized the other day, I'm like, hey, I never sent an email to them, or I've never really talked to them about getting to know them as a person. Now that I sent them a message and said, hey, let me know a little bit about yourself. And by doing that, that now has opened the door for us to have a better relationship, because now I understand a little bit more about them and then shared a little bit about myself. And so that's going to help build that relationship, that working relationship. Also, having empathy builds trust with our team members because they feel like they can relate to you. And I'm telling you, people will work so much better for you and with you when they feel like you care about them. So if you show empathy as appropriate, then it's going to be one of those connecting blocks that's going to help solidify your team, help build a better team. Okay. And you have to be discerning, because there is a balance that you have to have as a leader. It also helps improve team collaboration. So being a leader that has empathy, when you model showing it to your team members, then your team members are also going to see how you interact with them. And then they're going to start interacting with each other that way. I'm telling you. And then also, if you have a team member that comes on that's maybe new or maybe from a different area, and they bring kind of like a different mind frame, when they come and join and see how the other team members are empathetic to each other, they should join along. Like they'll join the culture that you already established and created on that team, versus bringing like a negative vibe, because you don't want that. It also helps with conflict resolution. So it helps us to be able to solve conflict with our team members and help them to be able to solve conflict with each other, because if they have to be corrected, they know you're not being mean. You're doing what you need to do as a leader because you're being responsible. There's a difference between being mean and being responsible. And as a leader, it's your job to make sure that your team gets from whatever point they're at to the point that they need to go, and that you help the organization go as far as it needs to go. Also, empathy is an important component of emotional intelligence, and it's a critical skill that all leaders need to have so that they can respond to their teams and adapt to ever-changing workplace. And that's one of the biggest things for me. I realize that that's really one of the main things that I teach is emotional intelligence, because being aware of what's going on with your team is going to make you a better, more profound leader, and it's going to help you put out fires before they start, or be able to put out fires once they start, because, everything's not going to be perfect every day, right? But it's going to help us with being able to try to be ahead of the situation, handle the situation quickly, or get the best outcome that we can out of a negative situation when it does occur. So what are some of the barriers that can get in the way of us showing empathy towards other people? So as a leader, this is really true. If we are feeling overwhelmed emotionally, absolutely, we could have a hard time showing empathy, but a mature leader is going to be able to show empathy to their team members, regardless of how they are personally feeling, because there's going to be able to be that separation in between what's going on in your life or in your world. Perfect example. A lot of times I end up relating things to like children, childhood, that kind of thing, because you get the example. So like if you think about like when parents have things going on, their kids should not always know everything that's going on, especially if the parent's having a difficult time, because the kids, it's not the kid's responsibility. Like you don't want to put all that weight on that kid. That's not their responsibility. And the mature parent and a well-balanced parent is going to be able to tend to the needs of that child, even though they have their own issues going on. They're going to say, okay, I need to take care of this. And then I can take care of myself afterwards, or I can take care of myself kind of like while I'm having to deal with this, with what they have going on in their little world. I need to make sure I address that and I'm a part of that, because I don't need them to necessarily be burdened with all of the heavy weights that come with being a leader. So the same thing happens with us, with our team members. We don't want to put unnecessary burdens on them. Also, if we have some preconceived judgment, like if we have already made up our mind about a person or about a situation, that can definitely cause a problem with giving other people empathy. If we say, okay, well, I already know that person, I already know how they operate, and, just, listen, it is what it is, and that's it. Also, if we lack awareness, and this is one, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh, this is one of the biggest things that I see with leaders that I don't, that are, yeah, leaders that lack awareness, they don't even know. I don't want to say that they suck. I'll say it like this, are the ones who lack of self-awareness, the absolute worst one. So, but you're not that kind of leader. You're watching this video. The leaders that lack self-awareness wouldn't even tune into this video. So I'm not talking about you. But and I mean, let me know in the comments. Do you agree with me or do you disagree? Like to me, the worst leaders that I've encountered are the ones that lack self-awareness. They think they are the cream of the crop. They think they are really doing the daggone thing. And it's just like, when you talk to their team members, they're miserable. When you talk to their customers, they may or may not be miserable depending on how they're wired and stuff like that. But anyway, let me move on, because I think I could spend a whole lot of time on that. And this is what I'm trying to undo. I'm trying to undo the lack of self-awareness. I'm trying to help people be better leaders. Also, stress and burnout. When we're stressed, when we're burnt out, we just need to rest. We just need a break, and we can be kind of sharp sometimes as leaders and lacking of empathy with our team members when we're emotionally spent. Also having differing perspectives, but a mature leader is going to be able to have a different perspective and still be able to have a decent relationship with their employee, unless it's something that's really, really okay. Like we can't budge on this one. Like the whole organization is going left and you want to go right. Like I can't go right with you. I can't sign off when you're going right in this organization, because this whole organization is going left, right? I don't even know if I'm pointing to the right direction, right? But you understand what I'm saying. Also having cultural differences. So a developing leader may not realize that different cultures are very, very different. And so you have to approach them very differently. And the more well-rounded the leader is, the more experience they've had with working with individuals that are not like them, the more aware, self-aware they will be that people are different, and that's okay. And that's okay. We can embrace their differences, and we can embrace our own difference, right? We should. We should embrace our own difference as well as the differences of others. And so we want to make sure that we are sensitive to the different cultures of other people. Also working in a competitive environment. I think I'm very thankful nowadays that I never worked in one of those publicly traded companies. I think, well, before, I had my plan and I was planning on going for one of those, going for the gusto, but I'm glad that I worked in not-for-profits and nonprofit companies mainly, because man, when you see something where they're like cutthroat, I remember I was reading this book in the library and it was like ridiculous. It was like every time you go to a meeting, basically like how to survive, like working in a corporate America company that's a for-profit company. And it's like every time you go to a meeting, write down notes, write down what was said. And they were like, and then number the pages on your notes, because if somebody takes your page and notes out, you want to be able to know. And I'm like, that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot. And so when people work in unhealthy competitive environments, yeah, they definitely lack empathy. It's a dog eat dog world. Also, frankly, having a lack of experience, just not being an experienced enough and well-rounded enough leader. Because even if you lack experience as a leader, but if you worked with people, you will tend to develop the knowledge of, okay, everyone's different. And so I think one of the hardest difficulties that a leader can have is by assuming that everyone is the same when they're not the same. So now we're going to talk about some of the ways that we can become better at showing empathy towards others. But before we do this, let me ask you, what barrier to showing empathy did you find the most interesting and why? Let me know in the comments. I definitely want to know. And now we're going to talk about strategies to cultivate empathy. So how can we develop empathy for others, and how can we become better and more empathetic leaders? We can practice active listening. We can pay close attention to what others are saying without interrupting. We can practice perspective taking and try to put ourselves in the shoes of another person. We can practice operating from a non-judgmental attitude and just try to keep an open mind and becoming more aware of any judgments or biases that can block any type of empathetic understanding that we may have towards other people. Then also being curious. And I think that that's maybe why this wasn't as hard for me to develop. Well, I'll say at one point in time, I was just like, no nonsense. And to an extent, I still have the no nonsense side. When it comes to foolishness, I'm no nonsense. But when it comes to like people, I definitely have a curiosity. I'm curious to know about them. I'm curious to know about their culture. I'm curious to learn. I like, I guess, studying people as a whole and all of those things. So having a curiosity about others is going to make us more empathetic to them as well. Also, emotional regulation and being able to work on our own emotions so that we can be present and attentive to the needs of someone else. Also, cultivating compassion and practicing kindness and compassion towards ourselves and to others. This can create a more empathetic mindset. Then, maybe watch one of those movies that makes you cry. If you need a good cry, if it's been a while since you've had a good cry, watch one of those heart-wrenching stories. Hopefully it has a good ending, because I don't like the ones that are heart-wrenching and then they have a bad ending. Like that, just for me, it doesn't help anybody. Unless it was like to drive a point home. It's like, okay, to bring about awareness for empathy, Otherwise, some of them just are like that for no reason. I'm like, I'm not doing it. Also, this is one as well, is reflecting on times when we needed empathy and we didn't receive it from others. Remember how it felt like when you needed somebody to be there or to hear you out or to be in your corner and you didn't have anybody. And how did that make you feel? So that's what we want to keep in mind. So if you want to learn more about managing and controlling your emotions, I want you to watch this video, and I hope you have a great and amazing day. Take care.